Yeah.
All right, here we go. Before I talk to you guys about Death Squad and nostalgia, I was hoping we could go back in time because I do have a few questions about the history of you guys. I think I heard somewhere, John, that you grew up in Connecticut. Is that true?
That is true.
Like, where in Connecticut?
Um, in Hamden, Connecticut, same place that Craig Spalter from the Eels grew up in, although we lived in the same area of town, but I never met him. And,
Huh.
and I don't know if I ever met him in Boston either. I think I might have met him once at one of those loft shows across from the garden, the
Uh-huh.
old garden.
Oh yeah,
But
Causeway, the loft parties. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, it's funny, like, just to have somebody like be a singer and be from Hamden, and which is, it's not a small town, it's not a big town either.
Are you from the Boston area, Steve?
No, I live, well, I live partially in Connecticut too, but also before that in New Jersey.
So neither one of you guys were born in Boston.
No.
Right.
Oh, see, I did not know that. I knew I would find some things out. When you guys were growing up, when did you start listening to music and what did you start listening to? Either one of you can go first.
I'd say when I was about 5, you know, I had a Beatles single that I got as a birthday present from a cousin, and I also had access to my grandparents' radio, which had a little turntable built into it. And I listened to, I don't remember a lot of what I listened to back then on the radio because it was a long time ago, number one, and a lot of it was just pop that was kind of lame. But I remember hearing La Bamba a lot and thinking, wow, this is really good. There should be more music like this. And and I didn't realize he was singing in Spanish. I was too young to know that. I thought he was just singing really fast. And I couldn't understand the words, which is what people say quite often when I'm singing, but coincidentally.
I mean, I know you told me that you became more into metal and stuff. Did that happen when you became a teenager?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, middle school, I was listening to a lot of metal and progressive too. You know,
What does that
and
mean? Like Yes and King Crimson and stuff like that?
yeah, Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
cool. What
that's
about you, Steve?
Well, I started, I had older sisters, so they were listening to music and I started picking up on what they were listening to too. So, I had a few singles. When I was a teenager, I started listening to like, all the 70s stuff that other people listened to, Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and the Stones and all that. But I really, I was kind of weird in that I still kind of liked stuff from the 60s. I listened to a lot of Cream and Hendrix and Beatles and stuff. So that was,
yeah, them too.
I kind of like the acid stuff, acid rock stuff more than what was going on in the 70s.
I imagine you guys were probably Queen fans too, since you covered a Queen song.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, now I know that you went to BC, John, and you moved up here. Did you come up here to go to school too, Steve?
I went out to the West Coast first and hung out there for a little bit, and then came out to Boston to just hang out, really.
And I think I read somewhere that John and Bob for Apples started playing together, right? And then you guys saw an ad or something that Steve had put up looking for bandmates. Is that how you guys all met?
Well, Steve answered our ad after we
Yeah.
went through several auditions for guitarists, but they just didn't. They, I mean, there was one guy who knew about the Clash and he knew the Clash songs, which was good, and he knew some of the Sex Pistol stuff. So we thought, oh, maybe this will be okay. But he was a cook on an with an airline. He was an air cook, I guess. So, you know, it was hard to schedule with him. Also, like he had this total disco boy look, you know, the short hair part of the middle, feathered back on the sides, and you know, the gold chains and all that stuff. And but image wise, it didn't really go with what we were doing. so, so yeah, so we kept putting out ads for guitarists, and one time Steve showed up and he looked the part, and he said, "I have some songs." So he pulled out this sheet of paper from his pocket, and there were like all these songs like written on it, and so we're like, "Yeah, I think we got the guy."
So this is like 1981, around 80, 81.
Yeah, 81. Yeah,
And you guys were into punk at that point already.
yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, you know, because starting with the 70s, you know, the Ramones and Sex Pistols, the Clash. Uh, Bob and I were both big Jam fans. That's why that was one of the bands he mentioned in his ad when he was looking for people to start a band with. And I said, yeah, I like all those bands he likes. So I
And
answered a similar ad by Al Baril, not and and I, you know, I didn't realize till later that that's who it was that I was calling. But I don't know if maybe I sounded too much like a college student or something. But you know, I just had a feeling that the talk over the phone wasn't going well. And he's like,
Wait a minute, Al answered your ad?
No, I answered Al's ad when I wanted to sing for a band.
Wow.
Bob's ad I called late. Bob's ad came later, so I actually called Al Baril before I called Bob, and he put his name in the ad, Al Baril. So you know, later on when I met him, then I put two and two together. But he's like going through all the names of the bands in his ad, like that you have to like, you know, oh, you like, and he's just asking me one by one. I already told him I already like the same bands, but maybe he was just not trusting. So it's like, oh, do you like the Sex Pistols? Yeah, I love the Sex Pistols. Do you like, you know, and he's, do you like that? Yeah, I love them. You know, what do you think of this band? He's like, they're great. And he's like, and and what do you think of the UK subs? And I said, I haven't heard the UK subs, uh, but I'll check them out. And he said, you have to like the UK subs, and he hung up on me. That was
Were you,
a very short interview for the position. So
that's pretty funny. Steve, did
had
you
I
like,
heard the UK subs, I might have been the first singer for SSD.
wow, we could have a whole different conversation going on here.
Yeah, yeah.
Steve, were you into like the English punk bands, or were you also into the New York 70s punk scene, or both?
well, both. But since I'd been out on the West Coast, I was uh, picking up all the West Coast stuff, and I was up in Washington State, so I was getting stuff from Vancouver and DOA and
Ooh.
Canadian Subhumans and Pointed Sticks and stuff, and you know, I was getting records from LA and San Francisco bands, you know, like, oh yeah, I got this Black Flag stuff and Dead Kennedy stuff, and um, was able to go up to Vancouver and see DOA a couple of times, and um, saw other bands up there and in Seattle. And so I had, you know, I came you know, I came to Boston. I was like, well, let's play some of this hardcore stuff, you know.
Yeah, and you know, Bob and I really didn't know that much about hardcore at the time.
So
But
Steve introduced you guys to it?
yeah, Steve and Kenny Highland too. You know Kenny Highland?
Kenny Highland, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
he was in a band with one of my roommates one summer, called the Heroes. And he said, "Hey John, I hear you like hardcore punk." I said, "Yeah, I do." And he said, "Here, take these records," and he gave me like 5 hardcore records. It was like DOA's Hardcore '81 and the TSOL EP, and you know, a couple of others. And I was like, "Oh, thanks." You know, suddenly, you know, instantly I had like the beginning of a hardcore collection.
I know
And I
when you
just ran
guys,
into them on the street, you know, but
I know when you guys started, you were a three-piece, and I'm pretty sure you recorded a demo as a three-piece, right?
Mhm.
And did you start playing out right away?
We played like
Pretty
parties at first,
Yeah.
you know, like, but yeah, we started playing out soon after that. You know, as soon as we could. You know, we
As a three-piece, or when Wayne joined?
both. We did a show at Media Workshop as a three-piece.
You did?
It got written up in Boston Rock, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
It wasn't a very long period, though, that you were three-piece for, was it?
Not really, no.
No, my earliest show memories are from us as a four-piece at like the club show in Cambridge, and Cantones
Streets.
did an early show there.
Yeah, we did a show at Streets with Wayne too, back after we first joined.
Mhm.
That was
But
really good.
the demo that you made, though, got some local airplay, and that's how you guys started to get known in the scene a little bit.
It did, yeah. You know, college radio.
Also,
Well,
being just we were
Not
playing,
BC, those our folks, you know. All the money we've given to them over the years, and they never play any hardcore punk. Except when Smalley was there and he had a little hardcore show. They let him get away with that.
Did you and Dave know each other when you were at BC?
Who are you asking?
I'm asking you, what, you didn't go to BC too, did you, Steve?
no, not then.
Uh,
Later on, I went to grad school there, but yeah, John and Dave lived together at that point.
You did. I just
Yeah,
talked this.
yeah.
I just talked to Smalley last week on the phone for a little while.
I just realized you're not looking at me, you're looking at my picture, which is why I don't realize you're talking to me because you're looking at my right shoulder.
I don't know what I'm looking at.
So now I know when you're looking at my right shoulder, that means you're talking to me. So yeah, we did know each other, although I was graduating. Well, I was on the 5-year plan, so we met during my 5th year when he was a freshman. So you know, but that's
Um,
also probably why he got away. I tried to get a show on ZBC to play punk too, but that's probably how he got on because they were a little more tolerant than when I was there. When I was there, it was really like super preppy, rah rah Reagan. You know,
rah rah Reagan.
yeah,
I believe that.
yeah. It looked like, you know, it looked like a private school in Duxbury because everybody was wearing polo shirts and with the alligators on them. You know.
Um, you guys ended up on This Is Boston, Not LA, in 1982, and only had been around for a little while. I think I heard somewhere that Jonathan Anastas, because he was working at Newbury Comics, is he the one that got you guys hooked up with Mike Drees and them?
Yes. Yeah. And this is another thing that ties us to SSD. Mike Drees wanted SSD to be on the record, and Alvarez said, "No way, no way. We're a DIY. You know, or that we don't go on any labels that we aren't in control of." So he had some space at the end of the record. And he asked Jonathan, who was working in the store at the time, "Hey, do you know somebody who can do a couple of songs for this record?" He said, "Yeah, I got some friends in the FUs." He said, "Oh, get them." So, so thanks, John.
Yeah, that record is
And
like,
thanks, Al.
Yeah, thanks, Al, too.
And you
FU is
know-
the band you get when you can't get SSD.
I'm going to ask you a little more about those guys in a second, but so that record ended up becoming like way bigger than anyone ever thought it would. I mean, it's like still to this day, it's like a famous record to be on. So you must be pretty psyched about the fact that you did get that break, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was,
That you guys weren't really part of the Boston crew, right?
well, yes and
No.
no. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, it's kind of like we did hang out with those guys, you know, and we went to Pizza Pet and Captain Nemo's like everybody else did. And at one time, Smalley and Anastas and Choke from Negative Effects were roommates of mine.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Later on, a couple of the Negative Effects guys were housemates of Steve's.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, it's not like people think that we were like outside of it. We were just, dare I say, a little critical of it. And so that kind of put us in a category with the Freeze, where, you know, all these guys are anti-scene. We weren't anti-scene. We just wanted it to be a little better. That's all.
Now, I know, I've known you guys for a while, but not really that well. But I know that, Hank hung out with you guys and he was a straight edge, but I didn't know if the FUs were a straight edge band or not. If someone asked me that question, I wouldn't know if you were, or were you considered a straight edge band?
Well, when we went out to California, we were considered a straight edge band because we were on a label called Exclaim, you know, like straight edge X, but and some people didn't like us for that, you know, but
Oh, there's other things they didn't like you
I
for.
didn't have a beer on stage with me to drink, or so maybe that would have put it to rest. But
But the point I was
I thought that was really interesting, you know. But
yeah, the
Yeah,
point
yeah,
I was
it was
making is
assumption
it was in
Boston
San
equals
Diego, I
straight
think.
edge.
You know, there were these kids that all looked like Waddy from The Exploited. You know, they all had that same mohawk and leather jacket with the pins and everything, and they were yelling "Boston straight edge wankers." So I mean, you know, who's the real joke here, right?
I never thought of you guys as a straight edge band, but I
Well,
did.
you were correct.
Yeah, I do know that Kill for Christ ended up on Exclaim Records. Did Al approach you guys about coming on that label? How did that all happen?
I think the whole idea from the beginning was that bands could do it themselves and not have some sort of central clearinghouse or anything that would make decisions.
Right, right. Yeah, Al said, you know, anybody in the scene, in the Boston hardcore scene, that wants to use that name can use it, you know, and they don't have to pay a fee. There's no licensing fee to use that name, and they didn't hire us. You know, everybody put out their own records and they sold them at shows and sold them through their own mailing or whatever. And but also like Discord, you know, because it was a label that was just for Boston music. It got more attention from distributors than if it was just some label that each of us came up with different names.
So it wasn't a press and distribution deal or anything like that where they paid for anything.
No, we paid for everything.
Okay, that makes sense. I didn't know. Here's another thing I want to ask you about that record. Pusshead did the cover. How in the world did that happen?
We were in contact with them. I don't remember if we asked him or he asked us, but you know, he ended up doing our cover. You know, he was doing a lot of covers then.
Yeah, I think he did ask us. I think he wrote to Bob, who answered all the mail back then. And he was also a singer in the band called Septic Death out of Boise, Idaho, that we played with once in Boise. But he was, you know, he wanted to be discovered as an artist, so he gave us that for free. And you know, I might be a little prejudiced, but I think it's his best work. And you know, if we wanted something like that now, we'd probably have to like call his secretary and, you know, and bid on it.
So things went well enough with the Exclaim deal where you did My America, and that record really, I mean, I guess controversy is the word I can think of. The lyrics of the record were misunderstood. I know that you probably have talked about this a lot, but why do you think Maximum Rock and Roll turned on you guys and tried to portray you as like a nationalist band? I remember when that happened. And because I didn't never thought of you guys like as nationalists. What do you think? What was there ever an explanation given to you?
No.
Here's my theory. Um,
Go ahead.
on the West Coast, there were like groups of kids that were, super nationalist, skinhead punks or whatever you want to call them. And they would get in fights with the punks. And so he was looking for like, and I think he was looking for an example. He was looking for a spanking boy to say that he was against all that. And he gave us a case of beer before he interviewed us, which, looking back on it, wasn't the best idea. So he just turned on us, started just like insulting us, and Bob was giving it all right back to him, which was convincing him that we really were these like, nationalist, love it or leave it kind of guys.
Do you think it was some kind of a test or something that he gave you a case of beer? Because that seems kind of odd.
Well,
Yeah.
it seemed more like a setup after that, because he was really friendly at first,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then later, like, I think I talked to him on the phone. I'm like, what was that about? And he said, well, I asked you guys before we went on, what do you guys want to talk about? And you said you just wanted to be spontaneous. So I'm like, oh, okay, so it's our fault, right? It's our fault you stabbed us in the back live on the air,
Did that cause any sort of a chain reaction with the fan base at all?
Not with our fan base, but with potential fan bases. Like, I met this guy at a show in Rhode Island once who had grown up in Hartford, Connecticut. And when he went out on his own, he got an apartment downtown, and he was right across the street from a squat. And he liked hardcore too, and so he just gone to the store and picked up a copy of My America. And so he said, hey, you guys, I'm into hardcore too. Look, I just bought this record by the FU's, My America. They're like, those guys are fucking Nazis. You can't listen to that. They're nationalist scum. And he's like, I don't think so. But I mean, this whole squat was like, we were canceled before it was cool.
Well, we didn't think that. Well, I'm going to, maybe a year later, because I'm going to get to the whole Enigma thing in a second. But one thing I do remember, and I went back and I was looking at old flyers and stuff, and I was just curious about this. You guys did a lot of shows with Gangrene and Jerry's Kids, the three of those bands together.
Yeah.
Numerous shows. Were you guys just friends, and you decided to always play together? How did that happen that you played so many shows together?
Yeah, it's just it. Like, mostly through Jerry's Kids, because Jerry's Kids and Gangrene, they were both South Shore bands, So, but Jerry's Kids were doing a show. They'd let us know, and they want us to let them know if we had a line on a show. Steve used to set up hall shows, and they were really well attended. But we've had DYS and Negative Effects on one of those shows too.
Plus, also those the whole Quincy Braintree crew is they were kind of like us. They were kind of peripheral to the Boston crew clique, and so the same sort of, well, we weren't exactly part of that central core thing, which we were able to hang out with each other and not be taking that particular identity. So it was, we felt a little bit, we kind of were simpatico with those guys.
And Gangrene must have been a little younger than you guys at that time too, right?
Yeah, they were 15
a little.
or 16.
I remember one time we played with them at the Rat, and the bouncers had to sneak them in the back door. They said, "Okay, you guys, get right to the stage, play your set, unplug, run back to me, and I'll get you back out." That's literally what happened.
I just happened to, and Steve, you used to do a lot of flyers, didn't you? You made
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of the flyers. Yeah, you're kind of famous for that, aren't you?
Yeah, maybe. I guess.
Steve is the flyer king.
Um, it wasn't soon, not much after that, that you guys hooked up with Bill Bartell, the late great Bill Bartell. I got to know Bill pretty well. He was a really good guy. And it's funny because a lot of people talk to me because they know I worked at Enigma Records and we did that deal with Restless, and they always think that I was the one that like got the, you know, FUs on Enigma, but I technically had nothing to do with it. It was Bill Bartell that you
Oh,
guys did a deal with,
yeah.
and he brought you to Wes Hine. At least that's the way I remember it. I was still only a 22-year-old kid at the time when I was working there. So you guys met Bill, right? And that's how it happened?
Well, he corresponded with us mostly by mail because, you know, he's on the West Coast, we're on the East Coast. But yeah, he liked us and he wanted to put more punk records out, so he did our last record before we reformed. Do We Really Want to Hurt You, which we plan on re-releasing one of these days,
Oh,
because
So,
not a lot of people have it, and you know, and
I can only imagine the contract hell involved in that, because you and so many bands get in touch with me about their old records, trying to get them back from these labels. Like they think
yeah.
I can get their records back for them. You know, like I've been going through that with the bands on Giant Records, you know, Dag Nasty wants that Field Day record, but the owners, it's a very complicated pile of crap. But anyways, that record ended up doing really well for you guys.
Mhm.
mhm.
And matter of fact, Young Fast Iranians was on that record, and you redid it. And that song, for one, is really it's really withstood the test of time. This past summer, Joni Lindstrom was spinning vinyl down at Notch Brewery, and I was down there and I heard Young Fast Iranians, so I ran over and I'm like, "Straw Dog." She goes, "Wrong. It's the FU's version." So after that record came out, I remember all the things that started happening, and it got a little interesting for you guys. You decided to change your name. Steve Martin, who I got to know really well after that. He was on my show actually a little while back, and he's now a big time publicist. And Bones came in on drums, and you released that self-titled record. I remember that I was Julie Chrysler, I think, was your manager at that time, and
Yeah.
she contacted me, and she said, you know, the band's going to change their name. Like, this is after we already said we would sign the band, right? And I went to Wes and I said, let's put these guys on Restless, okay? Because we're starting up the new division. And I went in there and I told Wes, and Wes is like, what do you mean they fucking changed their name? Can't change their name. And I remember thinking, how the hell am I supposed to tell this band? Can you just explain to me your version of all this? Because I'd love to hear it.
Not really.
I can give you mine. It might be different from the other guys, but Steve pitched to us that, you know, if we wanted to get more airplay, you know, we needed
Steve Martin?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we needed a different name, and also we weren't sounding like the FUs as much. I mean, we were still the FUs in our hearts, and we still did FU songs, but you know, just with more whammy bar. So, so you know, we just thought it was a change that made sense.
We were kind of held back by the name, like certain uh, newspapers wouldn't mention our name, and you know,
Yeah,
there were times then people didn't want to have anything to do with the name.
Yeah, I remember some BCN DJ when he's reading the club list for the weekend. He said, "And a band with a really stupid name will be appearing at the channel on Friday night."
Opening for the Misfits. Wow. So when that was all going on, it was kind of hard for me to remember all of it, but I do remember talking to Julie and trying to figure out why the band was changing their name and if there was any way that wouldn't happen. And she said that you guys wanted no part of that. And you were changing your name and that was it. But we still, released, the EP. And I think, unfortunately, it was really close to maybe even the day after or real close to when we released it that Bones.
Same day. Literally
The same day.
Yeah.
You know what?
May 1st of 86 was when the first EP was released and when he also died.
Yeah.
Before we get to that, though, let me just go back for a second. Bob, why did Bob? Is it true that Bob left the band because he didn't want to do hardcore anymore? Or is it because the band changed their style? I mean, what happened with Bob?
Bob would say it's because he didn't want to grow his hair. Steve and I were getting kind of shaggy back then, It's like, I'm not growing my hair.
Did he? Is that the real reason that he didn't?
He's not. He doesn't like metal in any capacity. He didn't want that, even to be like insinuated in our music.
So how did you find Bones?
I don't know. He was recommended to us, right, Steve?
Yeah, I think so.
Because we know people from Marblehead. A lot of skaters come from Marblehead, and Bones was one of them. So that's how he was recommended to us.
Some of the guys from the Boston crew are from Marblehead too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Trey Phelps was.
Yeah, so he knew those guys, maybe?
Yeah.
I'm sure he did, yeah.
Okay, so the EP comes out. It's great EP. I mean, Tie Your Mother Down. We mentioned Queen earlier. That was a great cover. I couldn't believe it when we got it. And Tie Your Mother Down, because I'm a big Queen fan. I actually got to see Queen 3 times when I was a teenager,
Oh, yes.
The momentum kind of got a little broken up there, unfortunately, due to Bones getting killed in a car accident. That must have been a difficult period for you guys.
Yeah. We had to go through a whole lot of drummers, essentially, which made things real hard.
And is he on We're Not Amused?
Yes.
Yeah, he is. We had recorded it before the EP was released.
Yeah.
I thought so. Yeah. So after that, you guys, continued going as a band, and you did have some changes. Put a couple more records out. They weren't on Enigma though. They were on, I think, European labels, right?
Canadian Lone Wolf. Well, yeah, European re-releases and Canadian record put out the record company.
Yeah, there was just one more record after the Enigma.
Your Own Worst Nightmare, and what about Under the Hammer?
That's just a
compilation.
That's just a collection of the 2 Enigma records put on one CD by a German label.
Yeah. Okay, I knew that. I just forgot about that. Sorry. And then you guys weren't.
I remembered it.
Then I don't know what happened between 91 and that. And the next time I saw you guys was at the Boston Hardcore Reunion. Did you guys just take a long break and do other projects, or?
Yeah, my projects were my 2 kids.
It's a good project. I mean, how did you end up getting back? Well, obviously they couldn't do the reunion without you guys. They did it without SSD though, but I can understand that. I mean, what was the process in terms of when Drew Stone, I believe it was Drew, I actually am in that film a little bit. Did he contact you guys, or did Katie or somebody say, hey, you guys want to play this reunion show? How did all that happen?
yeah, Katie got a hold of me, and she must have. I think she found my name in the phone book, because we still had them back then. And she said, "Hey, you know Drew Stone?" Yeah, I know Drew. He's like, "Well, he's a filmmaker now." Yeah, I heard that. He wants to do a documentary about Boston hardcore, and he wants to do a big show to promote the documentary. And so we need you guys to get back together. And I was in kind of like an FUs back then. I was in a band called Payload,
Right,
which
right.
which had Mick Stunt on guitar, who was a friend of Bones's growing up, and we actually rehearsed in his house in Marblehead, and we got Richie Rich on bass, who was he had been a member of Children, like children with a K, and he was also a roadie for the Eels, but he hadn't been doing anything for a long time, and good bass player. So we started jamming, and we also had at first we had Bobby Frankenheim on guitar. He joined the Boston version of the Freeze when they reformed. He was playing with the Freeze that night, and but he was replaced by Mick.
The show, and I was there in Revere. That was an unbelievable show.
Mhm.
I mean, mostly I had seen all the bands except for DYS. I'd never seen DYS. So I was kind of, and I got to know Dave really well because we were on California together, and I worked with Down by Law a little bit and helped them get their their first couple of records recorded. What are your, I mean, you guys must have had a good time that night. That show was pretty amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I was pinching myself all night, I didn't think anything like that could happen again.
It was
Uh,
packed too, man.
Yeah.
Everyone showed up for that.
yeah, I remember driving up and seeing this line going around the block. I'm like, oh, is
You,
somebody throwing away money or what's going on?
you, you didn't think it was going to be as big as it was?
I did not expect it to be that big. No, no, they didn't either, because when they started out talking to the Club Lido, and which is used to be the Wonderland Ballroom, um, they were originally going to do it upstairs in a smaller room, but then when they sold so many tickets, they're like, "Oh, we're gonna have to use the big room."
It was great. It
Yeah.
was a great show. Did you have a good time, Steve? I have a picture, Steve, of you and Bob Sensi from that show. I took a photo of you guys hanging out.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I had a great time.
So
I
a
mean,
lot of my friends.
I thought all the bands were really good too.
Yeah.
It's hard to
Mhm.
say who, stole the show. People have their own opinions, but I thought it was really good right across the board.
Oh yeah.
So let's get to modern day history now that we went through all that. Sorry I
Oh,
took you guys through all that.
I faded out before concluding the Payload story.
Oh, I'm
Um,
sorry.
so the show, the band show, Katie really thought it would be great if we could get Bob for Apples to play drums. So I called them up and told them, they're making a movie and they're going to promote it and all this other stuff. And, you know, Bob was like, "Get the fuck out of here." He thought I was kidding. He thought I was pulling his leg. So I'm like, no, it's legit. It's really happening. So he started rehearsing with so it became Payload plus Bob, because we had been jamming with a drummer friend of Mick's, and then Payload plus Bob got Steve to fly up from Texas. But
Mm.
you can tell him that story, Steve.
Well, John told me that Bob was playing with him again, and I was like, really, I got to get in on this, So, and I was down in working in Texas and stuff, so I started. That was the first time that I started flying up to do gigs with the band, and we did a bunch more after that.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, ever since that show, the FUs kind of have been like on and off the whole time, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, more on than off.
trying to be on.
Um, can we talk about the new record?
Sure.
Death Squad Nostalgia, really good record. I've been spending a lot of time with it lately. I know it came out like in August, 7 songs. I'm gonna play some on the show. Tell me about the current lineup. I know it's the 3 original guys, plus who are the other guys and how'd you get those guys in the band?
Well, there's Ian King on the other guitar, and I don't know. You want to tell how he got in the band, John?
You mean Jimmy?
Hmm?
You mean Jimmy? Jimmy Fowle?
No, Ian.
Oh, how did Ian get in the band?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Um, he was a friend of Richie's,
Yeah.
who had been playing bass with the FUs because Wayne lived in Maine and it wasn't convenient for him to come down every time we were playing a gig. So yeah, so yeah, we decided to try things out with more guitarists, and we wanted to do more shows, and Steve couldn't always fly up from Texas, so sometimes we did shows with just Ian on guitar. Sometimes Steve would fly up and we'd be playing with 2 guitars, which sounded really good. So I was happy we did that. I think it sounds I think we sound a lot better, with 2 guitars.
What about the songwriting process for Death Squad Nostalgia? I know there's a Chris Christopherson song on there, so I'm going to ask you about in a minute. But what about the originals? Because didn't you two write most of the songs?
Us too, but mostly Steve. So
Well,
Yeah.
you'll
Also,
have to
Wayne
ask
wrote
him
a
about
bunch.
this one.
Uh,
did you write the songs on this new record, Steve?
yeah.
So how would you present the songs? I mean, would you just write them down in Texas? Like, are you still in Texas now?
No, I'm in Salem now.
Oh, you're back up here now.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes it easier.
Yeah. But yeah. No, I was writing songs down there, and I'd bring them up, and um, we try to learn them, and then I'd go back, and I'd come back, and they hadn't been played, so I kind of had to push on that.
And when did you guys decide that you wanted to make the record?
It was
Long
something we
before we
always,
started making it.
yeah. It was something we had always talked about, but we had, lack of resources, lack of money, and such, and
Right.
we're kind of starting from scratch again.
It seemed to
Yeah.
be getting a really good reaction.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll ask the Chris Christopherson song. I mean, Sunday Morning Coming Down. It's a really good version of it. Were you guys just a fan, or is it supposed to be a joke, or I mean, what's the deal with this?
No, I kind of had pushed for covering that, and it's absolutely not meant to be a joke. I mean, it's I think it's a serious song to me. It's not, ha ha, I'm so hungover or something. It's about, just feeling out of place, and um as I read something Chris Christopherson said about it. He said it had to be said on Sunday morning because on Sunday morning the bars don't open till noon. So if you're alone, that's the loneliest time there is. Now, I thought that was a pretty good comment.
Were you a fan of those outlaw country guys, Merle Haggard, Johnny Cash, and all those
Yeah.
guys? Yeah,
Yeah. I like Waylon too.
Waylon Jennings. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think he's a great singer, like better than people think he is, because he can sing really smooth, and still sounds like a man that you could be friends with.
No, are you guys going to go on tour? Or do you plan on doing something with the new record?
We
We are, yeah, we're going to the UK this summer.
mhm.
We're going back, actually. We toured the UK and the continent back in 2017.
So the
So
FUs are popular in Europe.
Mhm.
we're
Yeah.
getting there, yeah.
Is this a tour that you're doing with other bands, or are you doing a headlining tour?
Well, what happens is it's a festival, so it's what a lot of bands that we know are going there. I mean,
Mhm.
HR is going to be there, TSOL, a lot of old English punk bands are playing there. I think the UK subs play every year, but I could be wrong about that.
Nice. What about what about the States? Anything in the States?
We try to get out of New England once in a while,
Yeah.
but it's not easy. It'll be easier in a couple of years when when I'm more retired than I am now.
Plan on doing it for a long time, because I know you have to be a little old, because I'm sure we're around the same age.
Yeah.
That could be. That could be.
And did I already mention that I already refer to you as Dr. Grimes? Because I have to ask you, you got a PhD, which is pretty interesting.
Uh-huh.
Was it recently that you got your PhD, or have you had it for a while?
No, I earned that in Texas and UT Austin in geology. Um, so yeah, I've had that for a while.
I
Did
think
you say
before you
theology?
geology.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think John and I were talking about this. There's a few other guys that are pretty smart guys in the punk world. Milo, who's got a degree, and Greg Graffin from Bad Religion is a doctor, I believe, also. Brian May, well, he's not a punk rocker, but he's a doctor.
Yeah. The guy from The Offspring.
Yeah, yeah. So you're in good company, man.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
think everyone's dumb in the punk and hardcore world, but that's not the case, is it, Steve? Dr. Steve.
Well, I don't know.
Well.
Maybe we are dumb, but we're potentially dumb.
Before I let you guys go, I always ask people if you're listening to any new music, and if there's anything that's been coming out lately that you guys like. Is there stuff that you've been listening to, or do you go back to the old stuff? Do you listen to vinyl, streaming?
All of that, but I listen to a lot of Motown.
Oh, that's cool.
I got on this Motown kick, but it's more than a kick because it's been going on for a few years now. But I do listen to some hardcore and some metal, although most of the metal I listen to is Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath and Judas Priest. And I also like outlaw country, so when I'm in the mood for that, I listen to that too.
Maiden finally got nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It took long enough.
Yeah.
How about you, Steve?
I listen to a variety of stuff actually, just like you said, about vinyl and streaming and stuff. I listen to some old stuff and punk and metal and hardcore and older rock and roll and stuff. And some country and jazz and show tunes and what have you.
I think you named every genre.
Right.
Oh, I forgot rockabilly. I also listen to a lot of rockabilly.
Well,
Yeah, that's it. That's all the genres.
well, I'm happy that you guys are still out there doing it, man. It's fantastic. And you did a great job on this new record. So congratulations on that. And I wish you the best, man, for the future. And good luck when you go to Europe.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, thanks,
for having us
fellas.
on.
My pleasure.
Thanks a lot, Steve.